After playing Palworld from start to finish, I think the strangest thing about the full release here is not what it adds, but where it adds it. Palworld is out of early access and is a feature-complete game, and there are real additions here. There's a true endgame, a final destination, and a clear set of late-game goals. I think that proper endgame matters. It's a final destination with an actual sense of closure. But I think most players won't see it. I think it's pushed so far back into the experience that a lot of players are never going to see that part of the game that, if you're a returning player, actually feels new. And this creates kind of a weird situation because most of the journey is still Palworld, the same Palworld it's been for the last 2.5 years. So I think the real question is, with the 1.0 release and Palworld leaving early access and being a feature-complete game, when does the 1.0 actually start? Really quick here at the beginning, I want to be clear, there are spoilers in this video. This video has spoilers. There are spoilers in this video. If you are the kind of person who wants to go in completely blind, no expectations, no structures, no hints, etc., this is your moment to leave. There are spoilers in this video. Pause the video, leave, protect your innocence. Now, if you've played Palworld before, you already know what the first part of this game feels like. You wake up, you start catching pals, you build your first base, you start automating things, you expand, and you slowly move up the tech tree. This core loop is still here, and most importantly, it's mostly unchanged since the very beginning. The early game is going to feel very familiar for returning players, and the mid game is also going to feel very familiar. Base building works the same way it always has. Progression follows the same general structure. You're still gathering resources, upgrading your stations, unlocking new tiers, scaling production. None of that is bad. In fact, I think this basic loop is the reason a lot of people like Palworld in the first place. Early on, the biggest difference between Palworld and early access and the now 1.0 launch of a feature-complete package is that it's not new gameplay, it's time. I think Palworld has introduced more grind and asks for more resources, more crafting, more setup, more repetition in a lot of the areas, and I think that extra labor is not matched by new mechanics to justify it. As a returning player, you might end up with something that feels slightly heavier, but not something different. Listen, this is my key point here, especially for returning players. The issue is that the new content in Palworld is not evenly spread throughout the game. And this is where the design issues really show up, again, for returning players. Because Palworld 1.0 isn't lacking additions. It has loads of new fun stuff. It's all backloaded. Most of what feels new and is new is stacked at the end of the experience instead of being layered throughout the journey. So for a huge portion of your time in Palworld, the game is asking for more time without giving you new reasons to stay engaged. And I think that changes the feel of the entire journey. You're not necessarily experiencing a steadily evolving game. You're instead pushing toward a payoff that's been pushed further down the road. Listen, returning players aren't rediscovering the game. You're going to be replaying familiar systems until you reach the parts that have finally changed. And I think instead of consistent novelty, you're offered this long ramp followed by an epic late game spike. And for me, that's my core problem here. It's part of why I think a lot of players are never going to see the part of the game that actually feels new. Because when Palworld Hero backloads all of its biggest changes, the early and the mid game stop feeling like progression and start feeling like prerequisites. On some level, there's kind of a simple conclusion I have here, is that Palworld doesn't feel like a full game refresh, leaving early access coming to the full feature-complete release. Instead, it feels like an end-game expansion attached to an existing, functioning, perfectly fine game. Let's talk about the World Tree problem. It's the big destination. The World Tree is the centerpiece of the endgame experience. It is the thing that Palworld has been building towards since the very start. It's where the "this is new" feeling absolutely kicks in, and I want to be very clear, it matters. It gives the game direction. The World Tree gives the journey a real physical endpoint. It gives the players a reason to keep going. But here's my problem. By the time you get there, you've already played through most of Palworld, about 80 or 90% of the game. You've already done all the grinding. You've already built your systems. You've already seen the majority of what the core game offers. I think For a lot of players, when the new content finally shows up in a meaningful way, it's now competing with fatigue instead of curiosity. And that's a very different emotional state because the World Tree is an exciting destination. It's an absolutely legendary location, but it does not retroactively make the first 80% of the journey feel different. There's another piece of this that shows the same design pattern. There's a floating island zone and then legendary Azure Covenant Tower boss. On paper, I think this is exactly the addition people want. It's a new space, it has a new visual identity, new epic boss fights, something that feels very different from the ground level gameplay loop we've been running for most of the game. I think when you finally get here, it is awesome. It does a great job of breaking up any monotony in building, and it gives you a sense that the world is expanding vertically, not just scaling numerically. But just like the World Tree, it shows up late. By the time I got to the floating islands, I had completed about 80% of the final journey. There was a solid 20% left with the floating islands and the World Tree. Absolutely phenomenal locations, but that 80% as a returning player was all things we had already done before and we're redoing them again. Ultimately, yes, just like the World Tree, the floating islands show up right at the end of the journey, which means instead of refreshing the journey while you're in it, it arrives after you've already committed to the grind of the gameplay. I just don't think this solves the pacing problem here. I think it confirms it because the issue isn't that these ideas are bad or they don't exist. I think the issue here is that they're not part of the moment-to-moment experience for most of the playthrough. All of the new additions are really rewards at the end of the journey instead of tools that reshape the path we take to get there. I talk about this a lot more in my Palworld review, a lot more detail, a lot more critical, but I think if you're a completion-focused player, having a clear finish line matters, and this version absolutely works for the right player. If you already like Palworld, this is more of it in all the best ways. If you wanted a real endgame, this absolutely delivers a real endgame. If you enjoy long progression systems, base optimization, scaling production, there is so much phenomenal gameplay here for you. There are also players this does not really fix the experience for, because if you bounced off Palworld in the early game, this is not going to change your mind. If you were hoping that base building's been completely reworked, it's not. If you were wanted new pals and new zones consistently throughout the entire journey, that is not how this is structured. If you dislike heavy resource requirements, you're going to feel that here. And if you want immediate access to the new stuff, this is not that kind of release. Ultimately, I think the best way to fully understand that Palworld 1.0, the full launch of the game, we're done in early access, it's a feature-complete finished product. It is not a completely new version of the game that is journeying through early access. It is Palworld with a real endgame attached. And I think for a lot of players, this is exactly what they wanted. I think for others, the issues here are that the road to that endgame is still mostly the same road you've already walked. And depending on which side of that you fall on, that's either a reason for you to come back or a reason for you to move on. There are absolutely new bosses, new zones, and so much fun to be had here. If you love Palworld, this is more of it. If this helped you figure out whether the 1.0 full release is actually worth your time, a like goes a long way. Thanks for watching and spending some time with me. And if you'd like to support the work more directly, I have a single pay what you want tier linked through the Patreon. No pressure either way. I'm Vadd. I'll see you in the next one.